Okay, so today I'm going to talk about a particular article which is very interesting for AI policy, and this is called Beyond the Manhattan Project for Artificial General Intelligence. This is an article authored by Matt Chessen and Craig Martell. Matt Chessen is somebody that I know. He's been a GPod's mentor. He also submitted an article which was quite prescient for its time in the Cornell Policy Review, arguing that all of the public policy schools should have a tech policy major, which was not the case back in 2017, and now all public policy schools have it. But in this particular article, Matt Chesson and Craig Martell, they come up with a very important and unique idea. And that idea is that there are, in a way, two models that countries can pursue. They are talking in the context of the United States, but generally they talk about two models that any country can pursue to advance artificial intelligence, because that's in many ways the prime technology, the most important technology right now that there is. And one model is the Manhattan Project model, and another model is the Apollo programs model. The difference between them is that the Manhattan Project model was really this secretive group brought together by the government of the United States during the Second World War, 1940s, that culminated in the invention of nuclear atomic bombs. And it indeed did put the United States on the path of global security dominance and leadership. But at the same time, after many, many years, it also led to a lot of public suspicion around nuclear power, and nuclear technology, as a result, uh, suffered and still faces a lot of impediments and public doubt in its other commercial uses, such as for nuclear energy, etc., which now seems like is the way forward. For many reasons, which we are not going into right now. So that was the Manhattan Project, super secretive, uh, indeed helpful for the US government, but largely, its applications focused on security and military and defense. On the other hand, is the Apollo project, the Apollo programs that again led to the establishment of US leadership after the Cold War. But the Apollo program was really about sending a man or a person to the moon, but it was done in a very different way than the Manhattan Project. The Apollo project was really, a whole of society sort of a program that was led indeed by the government and the NASA. But during the Apollo days, NASA created this sort of a educational outreach program where they would reach out to schools, they would reach out to universities, they would do teacher training, they would organize trips over to NASA, and really made students and the society overall enthusiastic. They also, by the way, employed a lot of media around it, but the whole society sort of joined hands together and became enthusiastic about space and the potential that the space race would have for the society. And thanks to that, the United States was able to come up with a lot of technological innovations, and also in many ways was able to transform its economy. You know uh, at the GPOTS Fellowship, the Global Policy Diplomacy and Sustainability Fellowship that I co-founded and I direct, uh, there is a consistent, very accomplished mentor, Shelley Brunswick, and she was earlier the COO of the Space Foundation, and she gives this very interesting presentation about how so many technologies that we use in our daily lives. We all know about GPS, etc., but also the microwave or the CAT scan, the MRI scan, or the firefighters' fire resistant suits. All of these are spin offs from technologies that were developed for the space during the Apollo programs. And really, it is these technologies that created, you know, a second foundation for American economy. And artificial intelligence, Matt Chessen and Craig Martell argue, should take up the path of this second Apollo program rather than the Manhattan Project because a uh, unlike earlier nuclear was just looked at as a single use technology made for bombs, etc. But unlike that, artificial intelligence is really a, widespread, multiple use, dual, if not more than dual use technology. It can be used for healthcare, it can be used for water management, it could be used also for defense. So if uh, we take the Manhattan Project pathway, which is something that the U.S. China Economic Security Review Commission has recently proposed. If the government here takes that pathway, then there is a risk that a not enough people will trust artificial intelligence, and trust is a big factor in its success and its economic application overall. And B, it might just get restricted to defense purposes, or surveillance technology, or just making government services more efficient, which are important causes. But at the same time, what is more important is the diffusion of these technologies, and a whole of society approach that can only be had through this Apollo program sort of a mindset. Now, Chessen and Martell also delved into a very interesting paper. They cited this paper, and I got into that. Uh, Written by Jeffrey Ding, who's an assistant professor at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And this paper is called The Diffusion Deficit in Scientific and Technological Power, Reassessing China's Rise. And what Jeffrey Ding argues is that China, although is coming up with a lot of new and innovative technologies in terms of patents, China is only second to the United States in terms of other pioneering technologies such as 5G or electric mobility and AI, etc. China is really up there in the global competition, but China is doing well in terms of innovation, not as much in terms of diffusion. Even now, smaller businesses, the SMEs, small medium enterprises, they do not, enjoy the benefits of automation. They do not. Enjoy the benefits of advanced manufacturing, etc. in China, and a lot of their projects are state led, not necessarily adopted at a larger scale by the private enterprise over there, and that has certain risks. If you look at global competition, for example, Ding cites this example of, again, the space race between US and the Soviet Union, where the Soviet Union was actually the pioneer in coming up with the new technology. They came up with Sputnik first, but they still did not come out on top of the space race. And why was that? Because despite doing that, they were not able to reap the benefits of all of this research and technology in the larger society. There, in Soviet Union, the industries remained laggards in technological adoption. The heavy state-owned factories still were working on a very old model. They were not tech-enabled. They were not as efficient. While on the other hand, the United States was adopting a lot of these technologies and was adopting a lot of these manufacturing efficiency standards that they learned during the Apollo projects, during the Apollo programs, and they implemented them industry-wise. So there was a at the consumer level as well as the industry level, there was a huge adoption of this technology. And that's why innovation matters, but diffusion matters a lot more. In fact, Martel and Chessen, they point out something very interesting, that in the 1800s, the United States was not really a tech pioneer in the world. Most of the American scientists would go to Germany or to the United Kingdom to study, and uh, the UK and Germany were really the tech pioneers during that time. But later in the 1900s, with institutions such as MIT, etc., coming up in the United States, and their focus on training practical engineers really transformed the game for the United States. The diffusion came first, and it was only after that that the United States became a pioneer in terms of innovation. So that in itself is a huge lesson over there, that technological innovation, we typically assume is the first thing that's important, but it is really about how you innovate, how you adopt certain technologies, how you diffuse those technologies, and how industries and people become comfortable with those technologies. That is the foundation of the creation of a fertile ground for technological leadership all over the world. Now, a lot of what Chessen and Martell are arguing about is from the perspective of the United States, but there's a key lesson for developing countries over here as well. We are at that stage where developing countries are seriously pondering about AI, as are all countries right now, and they are looking at artificial intelligence and generative AI as a very important springboard to sort of leapfrog development in their countries. It could really, take them from a moderate level of development where they are sort of, a middle income country to an advanced economy. And India is trying to do that. Brazil is trying to do that. All of the, major countries are really trying to develop artificial intelligence capabilities. But there is a lesson over here, that the temptation for AI to be exclusively government led would eventually uh, be missing the point of how AI should benefit the society. It would sure strengthen governments in defense, and it would strengthen governments in policing and surveillance, etc. And in many other things, even providing government services more efficiently. But it's probably not going to give out the dividends that it can fully give. So its potential will remain unrealized if it doesn't become a whole of society approach. One thing in New York State that I had written about in an article in the Statesman, uh, there is a particular program, a public-private partnership between 7 universities, which are now pooling funds for AI research and for large language model development. And this is called Empire AI, and Cornell, Brown, and a number of other universities, actually even beyond the New York State, are involved in that project, and that's right now about a $400 million fund to because no single university can spend so much in developing their own models, unlike some private corporations such as OpenAI, etc. So the universities are pooling their funds to come up with a pooled resource for AI research. And we see that happening in India as well. In India, the government in March 2024 created a fund, reportedly a $1.25 billion fund called the AI Innovation Center. It has been approved, and we'll see how it goes. But uh, those are good approaches, creating these pooled public-private sector funds to fund AI research. But the hope in the India Fund would also be that there is enough participation from the universities, from the private sector, so that the diffusion in AI really takes place. And I think that particular lesson is extremely, extremely relevant for developing countries. Of course, there are other lessons as well. For example, I attended a talk by Narayan Murthy at the Cornell India conference, and Narayan Murthy said that since large language model development is so expensive and so resource intensive, countries like India should really focus on developing small language models. And we've talked about it elsewhere, but right now I think the key lesson is that absorption and the Apollo 11 whole of society approach is an extremely, extremely important mindset, and a method and a tool and a pathway for developing AI, which is probably going to be the most defining technology of our generation.